All right. I'm going to get started. So my name is Danielle Angelari. I'm the Executive Director of NAMI Northern Illinois, and thank you all for coming today. Just a few quick updates before our presentation this afternoon. We're closing on Mental Health Month and our Mental Health Month Challenge. And just to remind you, today our challenge is to take a mini vacation. And I think that seems perfect for the topic we're kind of discussing today. We aren't saying full on vacation, but you could plan one of those too. We're talking, a store to the next town, to the other room, to the park, or to the nature preserve near you. Whatever you can do to get away today and just kind of separate yourself from your busy schedule and unwind. Next week, May 31st at noon, we'll be hosting an update from the Winnebago County Community Mental Health Board that you don't want to miss on their history, programs, their funding, and their future plans. And finally, I want to remind you of our annual event on June 6th at Forest Hills Country Club. Come on out for golf, and if you don't golf, join us at the after hours dinner for a silent auction, music, and much more. Before beginning, I do want the audience to know we're in a webinar format, so if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the question and answer box, and we'll facilitate those at the end of the presentation. But now I would like to introduce you to Ann Wasser. Ann started at Severson in December 2016. Before her time, she was the Director of Education at the Pacific Grove Museum of Natural History. She has almost 2 decades of experience in informal science education, including teaching at residential outdoor schools, aboard tall ships, a science center, and an aquarium. That sounds all very fun. Ann received her Bachelor's of Science in Earth System Science and Policy with a concentration in marine and coastal ecology from California State University, Monterey Bay, and a Master's of Education in Science Education from the University of Washington. When she's not at Severson Dells, Ann can be found in her garden, in her wood shop, in a book, or backpacking out west. Ann is here to talk about the emerging trend of prescribing nature to improve mental and physical health. As the health and nature movement grows, the definition of park prescription continues to evolve. And thank you for joining us today, Ann. I'm gonna hand it over to you.
All right, well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you to all those in attendance. Like Danielle said, my name's Ann Wassert. I'm the director out at Severson Dells Nature Center and the director of education for the forest preserves of Winnebago County. So I have kind of a dual role, which is a ton of fun. But today we are here to talk about the Parks Prescription Program. And this has been a national trend for close to a decade now, but we've really started focusing locally the last 3 years on working with providers to start prescribing time outside for their patients, both for mental health and physical health. So just if you take a second and think about your favorite place to be outside, close your eyes, imagine that place. And what feelings do you feel when you think about those things? How do you feel your body reacting just thinking about that favorite outdoor space? And for me, I am fortunate enough that I get to work in a forest preserve. So I've got a nice woodland and access to prairies and creeks right outside my work door. But not everybody has that. But just thinking about a green space, or in my case, I'm a water person, so being by a creek or a pond or the ocean is my calm place, can provide great mental health benefits. And so we're trying to encourage more people to find their place to get outside, and hopefully partnering with health practitioners to support people in doing that. This is actually one of our campers from last year, finding his place outside. And it's amazing when, even with little ones, like how well they do when you start to get them to think about those things. So it can be good for adult mental health, but also for little ones' mental health too, especially the last few years. I mean, you guys are on the front lines of this as providers, and seeing how it's affected COVID and all of the surrounding things have affected kids' mental and physical health. So getting time outside and playing is a great way to help combat some of those things. So a little bit about 815 Outside. We are going on year number 4 now, and this is a partnership with all of the local outdoor agencies right now it's in Winnebago County. We are slowly working on expanding to the neighboring counties as well, because we are so fortunate to have so much green space. Between all of these agencies, we really have great places to get outside, and whether it's for hiking, birding, paddling, enjoying a paved path, like there are so many different ways to recreate in our area that I think in many instances people take for granted. And so we really want to encourage folks to get outside and enjoy their natural areas. So looking at the community health needs assessment data, this is from a couple of years ago, but this has to be done every few years. This is some of the data from OSF St. Anthony's Community Health Needs Assessment. And this is in 2019, so this is pre-COVID. How many days people felt depressed or anxious or stressed. And a lot of that is due, obviously there's lots of factors to it, but what we have found is in the last decade and maybe even longer, that people are spending less time outside. They're more sedentary. They're in front of screens more, which I realize is a little bit ironic being that we're on Zoom. But that time in nature is so good, and being outside. So it doesn't have to be going to a preserve. It can be going in your backyard or taking a walk around the block. Just getting outside, being near green space, whether it's just trees down your street, can provide so many health benefits. And so we really want people to get outside because we know that health indicators for Winnebago County, both mental health and physical health, we're in the bottom like 10, and in some categories bottom 5% across the state. And so whatever we can do to help improve our community health indicators, we want to be able to tap into. And again, working with providers to provide resources and support however we can, so that you can be providing those to your patients as well. There is a growing body of research that shows just how beneficial time outside can be. Lowering cortisol levels, so your stress hormones, decreasing heart rate, even leisurely physical activity, so that leisurely stroll does so much for mental and physical health. And people are investing in more and more research. It's also there's been a lot of research with ADD and ADHD in adults and children, and the effects that time outside can have on their cognitive abilities and success. And we see it all the time out here with school field trips. We will have teachers that want to tell us who the like quote unquote bad kids might be, and we politely say no thank you, because it's frequently the kids that are on the spectrum that have trouble focusing inside, but you get them outside and they absolutely excel because they can hone in on sounds or visual, whatever their hyper focus is. Being outside in nature allows them to excel, but it also allows them to be physically active, and that mental check-in, again, visual and hearing with that physical movement, for whatever reason, that combination seems to work really well. So they're using their motor skills while also using their brains. And again, most of you know the benefits of play on, mental and physical health for kids. And so getting them outside and letting them play and working on their fine and gross motor skills is also beneficial for their physical and mental health. So there's just no downside to being outside. So you can see their ability to concentrate works better. We've seen that with one of our teachers who works with RPS and their high school special needs program. And when it was located right next to one of the parks, she would actually take the kids for a birding walk every day, and they would go for a half hour or 45 minutes. And the afternoon teachers would say, what are you doing with them? Like, so much has changed, because they were able to stay focused on the tasks at hand better than they were before she started doing that. And so even just anecdotally, we know that it works, even on top of all the research that's out there. And this is just a quick video about ParkRx. And we'll see if our internet is strong enough out here to be able to stream that. We'll give it a second and see how well it does. If not, it's not a big deal. We can always skip it.
And I think at the top, you might have to share your sound with us.
What was that, Danielle?
I was just saying, at the top, you might have to share your sound with us at the top of the screen. There's a little, maybe like 3 buttons or 3 dots.
Yep. Share sound. Perfect. Thank you.
As a doctor, I prescribe Parks because it's one of the best things for the health of the children and the families that I get to take care of.
Nature makes me feel happy because when I go outside, I get some fresh air. I sometimes will beg my parents to go outside.
Yeah, I think if I'm too long inside, I get a little wound up.
There's something very spiritual about, the trees and, the leaves,
the animals, the crickets,
the birds, the soil,
the rushing sounds of the water, just sitting still, closing my eyes, taking a deep breath in.
I find that very, very comforting.
A lot of benefits come from being outside and being in nature.
When you go hit the trails and you walk on those trails, this is when everything aligns.
It's almost like a recharge.
Nature provides a lot of medicine.
It just has a feel-good factor. I can't explain it scientifically.
After an excursion into a forested area, the level of natural killer cells, which are good, rises by almost 50%. And 1 month after that walk into the forest, it's still elevated above baseline by almost 25%.
For me, I almost feel like I have to get outdoors every day to just feel better inside.
I think that it really helps me manage my chronic depression.
It's powerful medicine.
It just makes you feel better.
It brings health and happiness to our lives in a way that being on a phone or being plugged in doesn't.
Just decompressing.
So overall, there's a lot of evidence now that being outdoors, especially under a canopy, near the sound of water, listening to birds, you actually improve your health. Not just feel better, but you actually get better because of it.
In summary,
go outside and get some fresh air.
Take a walk, enjoy the green space.
Get out of nature.
So that's a little bit about ParkRx America, and that is a national program of which we are one of the local chapters for, and it allows providers to prescribe time outside. It's really an easy process to sign up as a provider, and you can work with your patients, and it follows all HIPAA regulations as well. Because it's basically just, you can set up for text reminders or email reminders for patients to go outside. And we've got it all set up so that there's all of the different parks and preserves are loaded into the system. So you can work with your patient to find out if where their local park or preserve is, or if there's something close to their work, whatever is going to be easily accessible for them. And you can say, okay, you live near Deer Run Forest Preserve. So let's say you should go for a walk at Deer Run Forest Preserve 3 days a week for 30 minutes. So you can set the location, you can set the frequency, and you can set the duration to help prescribe time outside. And they can use either through email or phone to say, yes, I've fulfilled my prescription. So it'll send them text or email reminders to be able to do that. And then you, as the provider on the back end, can actually see how often they are fulfilling their prescriptions. And so really the prescription process is assessment to determine if this would be beneficial for a prescription. Again, for most of your patients, it absolutely should be. I know for some, there are potential for barriers. So whether it's transportation or feeling like they don't have a park or preserve, even if, again, they go through a walk in their neighborhood, it's a great way for them to be active. I know there's some people that aren't comfortable being outside by themselves, especially in preserves. So we highly encourage folks to join. 815 Outside actually offers walks and bikes in the summers. The walks are year round, but the bikes we only do in the summers. And so if people are apprehensive about being outside by themselves, they can absolutely join one of our walks. All of our partner agencies also have free and low cost hikes as well that folks can join. And all of those resources can be found on the 815 Outside website. We also do a monthly email that shares all of the programs that are coming up for the month. So if patients want to know, like, hey, what activities are happening that might be accessible to me, they can sign up for that as well. Or you can, as a provider, and be able to share that with your patients as well. So just to give you an idea, so we've got different hikes. We try to have them be as accessible as possible. So even if you've got folks that are using a walker or are wheelchair bound, we try to schedule enough hikes that are using paved paths so that it is easily accessible to folks. So here's kind of the prescription idea. And we do have pads available if folks would like them. Sorry, we just got an internet connection unstable warning anyway. So folks are welcome to use those. It, again, is depending on the technology of your or use of your patients. The online system is going to be much more user friendly, but we do have the prescription pads as well. So just to give you an idea of some of the examples of places that have done it before, Baltimore started doing a Docs in the Park program actually a decade ago, and it's still going. And so they've got doctors that will meet using through Baltimore Park District, and they have programs typically spring through the fall. They do have some winter programs, but they've seen a huge increase in the number of families that are coming out and being active and working with their providers to combine that kind of recreation and healthcare piece. The Greenville County Health that in South Carolina, they actually have worked with families. What they're doing is prescribing time outside and working with a nutritionist. So it's a holistic approach. So they're looking at nutrition, they're looking at family activity level, all of that, so that there's multiple providers that are all working together to look at overall and family health and helping support mental and physical family health. And then Chicago Botanic Gardens, our most local example of this, has a horticultural therapy program. So they offer programs and services through that. They also, in the last couple of years, have started offering a horticultural therapy certification program. So for providers, if that's something you're interested in getting into and adding to your suite of resources, they have a certificate program as well. So I wanted to give just a quick tour of the ParkRx website to give you an idea of what's there. So the resources is their toolkit is amazing. They also have a hub of research, but wanted more studies on what's been done of the mental and physical health benefits of being outside. So it's got all of the different resources in here. So if you're a clinician, if you're in public health, community health, or if you're a park service provider, these are all opportunities. There's resources there But then to sign up as a provider, you can go in here, and it's a quick few questions in here. And you can see all of the different places that are doing it. They still haven't added us on there, which they need to, but because we've been on there for 2 years now. But it is, let's see. And you can also get feedback from other healthcare providers. But yeah, so this is a great place to sign up. We also have a local sign up page on the 815 Outside site so that you can receive information that's local to us. The providers that we have that have currently signed up, so if you are part of UW Health, 815 Outside RX program is actually part of the prescription system for UW Health. So it's mostly some nurse practitioners and some pediatricians that are using it, but that is expanding. We're hoping to do some more professional development now. Hopefully COVID subsiding. I don't know what's going on now. I mean, obviously things are going back up again. So once the medical staff have a little more time, we're hoping to do some more professional development and outreach so that more providers know that this resource exists. And then we have a couple of independent mental health providers that are using it with their practice. And actually a few of them have been taking patients outside. So instead of doing their regular therapy sessions in an office, they'll go out to a park. Obviously keeping distant from folks so that it's still a private conversation, but using kind of nature therapy through their regular visits, which is a nice way to be able to combine the two. The other app that we have that's just recently been released, and this is something that's a little kind of lower hanging fruit and less management, or actually no management on your end as a provider, just to test to see if your patients would use something like ParkRx. Nature Dose is a really basic app that allows people to track their time outside, and they use the aggregate data for larger scale research, so to advance understanding of use as nature as medicine. So they're working with urban planners, healthcare providers, kind of across the board, and how to incorporate more nature into healthcare. Even so much as looking at how much spending time in nature reduces healthcare costs. So there's actually a program that they're partnering with there. So there's a lot of opportunities to, again, help your patients find what works for them to get them outside and active for their mental and physical health. So that's all I've got. I'm happy to answer questions. Here's my contact info. We do have an 815 Outside AmeriCorps member that manages kind of our day-to-day stuff. So you can also reach out to them. Right now it is Lydia Wilson, but she will only be here for another month or so, and then we'll have another member here starting later in the summer. And then all of the information can be found at 815outside.com, and we're also on Facebook and Instagram. And if you would like to be added to our monthly newsletter list, you can drop it in the chat, or you can email me later if that's something you're interested in receiving. And again, it's once a month, so we don't fill inbox. We usually do it at the very end of the month for all of the next month's upcoming activities. All right, so much, and I'm happy to answer any questions or things people want more information about.
If you weren't a provider but you're watching, how could you encourage your provider to maybe look into this?
Absolutely. These resources, again, are all on the web, so you can share the information with your provider so that they they know that it's out there, and it's like, hey, this, if it's something, especially the Parks prescription program, if you feel like it would be a useful tool for you as a patient, definitely sharing this with them of like, hey, I think this would be great for me to be held accountable to getting outside. And I did a test run and set myself up as a provider and then as a patient, and it was really nice. I just got a quick text message of like, hey, have you been out to your forest preserve yet to go for your walk? And it's just one of those things that's a gentle reminder. I mean, we all know the things that are good for us, right? Like eat your vegetables, be active. But if you have that like just gentle nudge, it's amazing how much it motivates you to get out of your seat and go for a walk. So it's a really great resource that I highly recommend. And Richard, I saw your question. Oh, go ahead, Daniel.
I was just going to read the question.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Rosecrans is not a part of the program. We would love them to be. We have reached out a few different times in a few different ways. So I mean, I would love if you have a contact that would to get us talking to the right person. We would love to be able to share this with folks, because we really want to be able to get as many providers involved in this as possible. Because again, in this area, in Winnebago County, we've got 20,000 acres of protected green space between Forest Preserve, Park District, Rock Cut, Natural Land Institute. There are a ton of places to get outside, whether it's just a local neighborhood park or the network of preserves that we have on the Kishwaukee, where you can walk for miles and be outside. And we know that they're underutilized. And it's an opportunity to be able to get more people using their public land while also improving their public health or their personal mental and physical health.
I'm not sure if you saw the one in the question and answer box. They said, my patients are all children and in Dixon, Illinois. Are there resources that you know of in other areas, like locally, like close to Dixon, perhaps?
Yeah, so Debbie, we are working with, starting to work with Ogle County to add all the Byron Forest Preserves on there. We are also hopefully working with adding Dixon Park District properties on there as well. So there aren't currently resources, but that's something that we are working on adding as we expand to neighboring counties. But there's no reason that you still can't use the tools on the ParksRx website to get folks outside. But we haven't added those to the online system yet, but we will.
Is there a list of providers on the website that are currently enrolled that like the public?
There is. Yeah, there is not currently, but as we continue to build out, we are adding more providers. We recognize that this is kind of awful timing and me working with providers because so many of them are wrapped up in COVID related things, whether it's mental health providers that have waiting lists for patients or other physical health providers that are still dealing with all of the COVID issues. We've had a lot of health providers that are like, yes, I'm really excited about this, but I don't have capacity to take it on right now. And that's where, I mean, the county health department, Winnebago County Health Department is really excited about being a part of this. But Dr. Martell is like, I can't right now. So, which I completely understand. So we're hoping once we figure out what COVID is going to do and kind of the endemic nature of it, once it gets to that point, we'll be able to work with the health department and more providers to get a more robust list.
So do you have to be like a therapist or a clinician to prescribe?
You do not.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, you do not. They don't. The ParksRx system doesn't check that you have qualifications. It's just it's a way for you to be able to connect with your patients. So I know that there's a couple of different like nature therapy programs across the United States that they aren't like registered therapists or aren't like, but they're doing different kind of more informal nature therapy programs that are using this to follow up with people that that take part in their programs.
Okay, awesome. I see some comments just about being a NAMI facilitator and a recovery support specialist, and that's a good idea, and utilizing this program too. Now I'm thinking about what we could do also as NAMI. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's, I mean, we could co-lead walks, like if there's, that's the other thing we did the year before COVID. We actually were working with UW Health when it was Swedish American, and we did kind of docs in the preserves program. So once a month we had a different specialist from Swedish American meeting and going for a hike. It was great. I think it was 8 months, and we had a cardiologist, we had a weight management physician, we had trying to think what else. We had somebody that was like we had a chiropractor out, and so it was all these different specialists, and people really liked being able to meet doctors informally. And while they couldn't give specific like advice that you would get in a one-on-one doctor's visit, it was just general like health and wellness of, hey, here are things you do and why it's important to be outside to help manage your weight or help with your cardiovascular health or helping with your bone density and those kinds of things. And so that's something we are looking forward to hopefully getting back to again once providers have space both mentally and physically to be able to do that.
There's a question from Marianne. How do we get Cook County involved, or are they already that you know of?
As far as I know, Cook County is not involved. Again, you can look on the ParksRx website and see if the parks and preserves have been added, and it will tell you who has added them, which would tell you who is potentially managing that part of the program for them. Again, I know Chicago Botanic Gardens does some specific programs, but it's very specific to their site. It would be a great opportunity for, the Forest Preserves of Cook County or even Chicago Park District, both of which are massive organizations that I would think on some level would have the capacity even to just add the sites to be able to, for providers to be able to use them.
You Debbie asked, does 815 Outside have resources? And Debbie, I'm not sure. Could you be a little bit more specific on resources? I imagine that it does, right, Anne?
Absolutely. So we've got different like mapping resources. So if people are like, I don't know where my preserves are, they can go there, and we've got a bunch of different maps based on like different recreational activities. So if people are really into birding, we've got birding sites. If people are really into hiking, we've got the best hiking trails. If people are interested in boating, like paddling, we've got a map of all the different boat launches in the county. So if they're wondering where they can paddle from. So there are a number of resources on 815 Outside for people to find places to go. One of the other things that we have run into is, again, because we have such a large chunk of our population that doesn't spend time outside, and it's not part of like what their family have done. They are like, okay, I know we have all these parks and preserves, but they're not sure what to do when they get there. And so that's been kind of the next hurdle of kind of helping people figure out what to do when they get there. And then for a lot of folks, there's fear, whether there's lions and tigers and bears, which that may sound funny to some of you, but there are people that are convinced that we have lions and tigers and bears in our woods. And really the biggest thing we have to be worried about around here is ticks. So but that also scares people too. And it's like, so we try to provide different educational resources. So we do have a full YouTube channel of like how to prepare to go outside, whether it's in the summer or the winter, and how to be outside safely and smartly and comfortably. So if you have patients that are like, the idea of being outside in a quote unquote wild space completely scares them, there are resources there too that you can share with them of like, no, it's scary. But it also just getting them started in the neighborhood park. So if there's a Rockford Park District property that's down the street, that may be less intimidating than like, hey, go to Black Hawk Springs Forest Preserve, which might be a little more intimidating for somebody that's not into nature, but maybe a confidence builder to help get them to that point.
I'm muted, sorry. Does 815 Outside have information from other counties outside of Winnebago on there? Or is it just solely for Winnebago County?
Right now, it's mostly Winnebago. We've started to add some Boone County sites because Boone County Conservation District had specifically asked, they're really interested in getting more involved and becoming a full partner of 815 Outside. And then Ogle County as well, because Byron Forest Preserves is really interested. So we've been working on those two areas, again, continuing to add more. But if you have sites that you're like, this is my place to go outside, like I really like this, I want more people to be able to find this, you can definitely send that information our way. And really we just need like basic description of the site and location. And they like to know if like the trails are accessible, if there's bathrooms, like those basic things. Any of that information that you can share with us, we'll be happy to add it to the parks prescription page so that can be a location that you prescribe outside for your patients.
Marianne, I did put the park prescriptions website in the chat, and there's a toolkit in getting people involved, I believe, for agencies, community, whomever, to sign up. You can sign up through the website too, correct?
You can, and you can sign up for the national one. We also have, like, if you're looking at specifically locally focused resources for ParksRx, I'm putting the 815 Outside RX link in the chat as well, so people can go directly there. And we try to send out emails to providers like once a month, once every other month. Again, not filling your inbox, but as there's relevant information, we want to be able to get it out to you, whether it's new research or resources to be able to get your patients out. We'll share those as well.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Marianne's looking kind of like, how do you get someone or a provider interested in this besides like sharing information? Maybe Anne would be interested in talking to them.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you have a provider that you like really want to get them on board, you can absolutely give them my contact info. There's also, like I said, there's also a ton of research, like the peer-reviewed published research that's on the ParkRx website, that you can share with them, because some doctors want data before they get involved in things, which as a science brain I completely appreciate. So they may need that. If there's other questions that providers have, I'm absolutely more than happy to answer them, because again, we want more providers prescribing time outside, because we know that it works. I mean, for mental health, physical health. And again, I just ran into this resource just in the last week or so about there's a nationwide effort to tie time outside with healthcare costs, which I think for a lot of providers would be a compelling reason to prescribe time outside for their patients. I mean, it should be just because it's good for their patients, but if it comes down to dollars, that data exists now too, which is good.
Thank you. I feel like, oh, I had a question. could you or would you share your PowerPoint with me so I can share with people that attended today, maybe those that signed up that couldn't be here? And I
Absolutely
have a recording of you as well, so people can watch again.
Great.
Oh, thank you so much, Anne, and thank you everyone for coming today. I appreciate it, and I hope you have
thank you everyone
for rest of your Tuesday.
Yep, everybody else, thank you so much for coming. And again, if you have questions, I'll put my email in the chat and you'll get it as part of the PowerPoint. But please reach out, and again, happy to help support you in any way that we can.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Thank you. You too.